We continue on with our NHL GM Report Card series. We're almost through the Central Division, which means we're almost through the entire league. But today we're taking a look at the Winnipeg Jets. We'll take a look at the trades, the signings, and great new work of GM Kevin Cheveldayoff coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we take a look at the Winnipeg Jets of the Central Division. Of course, we're almost done. We've only got a couple teams left, Dallas and Minnesota, which will be coming up over the next 24 to 48 hours. And then we'll be done with this series and we'll be moving on to the NHL 24-25 season preview. So stay tuned for that. So, of course, Kevin Cheveldayoff and the Winnipeg Jets had a somewhat busy offseason, but they still have work to do. Unfortunately, some of these teams I tried to hold off until their work was complete, but there's a lot of unsigned RFAs right now impacting a variety of teams, including the Winnipeg Jets. They find themselves with $5.7 million in space and an unsigned Cole Perfetti. We've heard that Perfetti would love to sign long-term. We've also heard that they're possibly open to doing a bridge deal. We don't know. Sounds like the team and the player and their agent are having a difficult time coming to terms on a long-term contract. It'd be great to see them, figure that out. But if they don't, we could see a short bridge deal and have this revisited in a couple of years' time. But first, we'll take a look here at the trades, and then we'll look at the other signings that have been completed, analyze how this team has changed, and give Cheveldayoff his grade. We saw two trades for the Winnipeg Jets. One, they picked up a defenseman from Carolina for nothing, basically, for future considerations. They had Dylan Coughlin, who became a spare part, if you will, in Carolina. Coughlin will have an opportunity to come to Winnipeg. He's probably going to end up being the number 7 guy unless he plays his way, ahead of some of the other guys that are expected to get, a higher likelihood of getting a crack at the top 6 spots. But we'll see. Either way, he'll be, an extra asset for them for sure. And then, of course, they traded I guess you want to call him disgruntled Recker McGroarty, who would not sign. Recker decided that he didn't see a future in Winnipeg for whatever reasons. I mean, all we had heard basically was that essentially that he wanted an opportunity to go straight to the NHL and play NHL games right away. Winnipeg wasn't willing to give him that guarantee. They thought he may need a little bit of time in the minors just to, they had a pretty deep forward group last year. And the fact that they were, high in the standings going for, a division lead and all that, I don't think they really wanted to mess too much with their lineup, and they didn't want to bring him in late in the year and just guarantee that to him, which I completely understand. And that, because he couldn't get that, seemed to completely sour the relationship. Eventually, after not budging on his his thoughts and were not willing to compromise, they ended up trading him this offseason in Pittsburgh, and they got themselves a pretty good prospect in return in Brayden Yager. Yager's 1 year older, was also a first-round pick. They were taking the exact same spot, just 1 year difference. So hopefully Winnipeg can make good with Yager, and hopefully he can be a good piece. I noticed they're starting to draft more from the Western Hockey League and other parts of Canada, more so because they have not had a lot of good luck with some of these other players, especially coming from college. So we'll see what happens in that for future. But for right now, they got Brayden Yager. Recker McGroarty has gone, and given the circumstances, I think he did well. We know Cheveldayoff is a very patient GM. Unfortunately, he's had to deal with a number of players over the years wanting out, and he will not make deals until he's confident he's getting the right deal coming back. The signings they made this offseason, of course, like I said, the one big one remains Cole Perfetti, but earlier at the end of the offseason, or beginning of the offseason, I should say, end of the regular season, they signed goaltender Thomas Milic through his ELC. He has been in the organization for a little bit, started and played at the lower levels on strictly, ECHL and AHL deals. Milic now has his ELC, which makes him NHL eligible. He was a former goaltender who played for Canada at the World Juniors, so it's certainly somebody who appears to have good potential. Going into free agency, they re-signed Dylan DeMello. He did not get a chance to make it to market. They signed him on a 4-year deal of $4.9 million. Right shot defenseman who does a lot of the little things right and is just a real steady presence back there. I think that's a pretty good deal. They bring back Eric Comrie in a 2-year deal at $825,000, and goaltender Capo Kakinen on a 1-year, $1 million deal. So Kakinen and Comrie can battle it out in training camp for the right to back up Connor Hellebuyck. The other one will likely need waivers and will go down to the American Hockey League. They re-signed Colin Miller, 2 years at 1.5. Jared Anderson Dolan comes over, 2 years at league minimum. Mason Shaw comes over, 1 year at league minimum. Hayden Fleury, another 1 year at league minimum. David Gustafsson re-signs 2 years, $835. Logan Stanley, 2 years at $125. Dylan Coughlin, after the trade, signed a 1 year deal at league minimum. Ville Heinola, 2 years, $800,000. And of course, Yager, who came over in the trade with McGroarty. His contract was already done before he got to Winnipeg. It was technically signed with Pittsburgh, but it was done this offseason. So at the end of the day, outside of the DeMello re-signing, majority of their deals were all depth pieces for 1 or 2 year deals, somewhere in and around league minimum or slightly above. So really, they had some big change in the back end. So let's take a look at that now and how the team has changed with additions, subtractions. Coming in, you've got Coughlin, Yager, Fleury, Kakinen, Anderson Dolan, Mason Shaw, Hayden Fleury. Going out, a couple of veteran defensemen, Brendan Dillon, Nate Schmidt, Sean Monahan, Tyler Toffoli, who both had come over in deadline deals, were not brought back. And then Laurent Brossoit, of course, former backup goalie, moves on again, this time to Chicago. So ultimately, it's hard to say how this team is going to look on the ice next year. I don't think it's going to really be drastically different. There was a lot of rumors through the offseason about Nikolai Ehlers. That's never come to be. We didn't get an extension and we didn't get a trade. But the belief was that he would prefer a trade, even though that never came to be. But like we said, Cheveldayoff's been very patient with a lot of these moves. Going into last offseason, we honestly thought Scheifele and Hellebuck were both in that same boat, and then they surprised us right around, I think it was right before camp or right as camp was opening, 7-year extensions, right, for both. So that was surprising. Could we see a similar thing with the Ehlers? I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, they've had the change in head coach after Rick Bowness retires. I think for some, like Ehlers, that might be a welcome sign, although Scott Arniel was already there and had taken over for different stretches throughout his bonus. Not to say that Bowness wasn't a bad coach. He's a great coach, great career. I just think he's not every coach is going to jive well with every player. And I know a player like Ehlers did seem frustrated with how he was used. So I wonder if that could play a role, and maybe they're hoping things could work out. Looking at their lineup, though, projected lineup, you're looking at Scheifele, Velarde, Connor, Ehlers, Domestikov, Perfetti, assuming he gets signed, Lowry, Niederreiter, Appleton, Gustafsson, Iafallo, and Barron are probably going to make up your 4 lines. Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Pionk, Miller, Stanley. The back end doesn't seem to be obviously not quite as experienced as it once was. They really could use an upgrade at the number 2 center spot, which seems to have plagued this team for an extended time. I don't know long term if Perfetti has a chance to be that. I know he was drafted as somebody who could play center, but I think they might see him more as a winger. Some of their other younger players, too, I do wonder if we could see an opportunity for a guy like a Brad Lambert or somebody this year to really make more of an impact. But they did well in the McGroarty trade. Obviously, Yager's going to likely not be in the lineup this year, I wouldn't think, but we'll see how he does in training camp. The blue line does concern me a little bit. They lost some veterans. They brought in, some other help like Hayden Fleury, Dylan Coughlin. I'm not sure about Logan Stanley, really. Colin Miller comes back. Didn't play a lot last year. So I do have some concerns on the Jets' blue line. Goaltending should be solid. They got multiple options there for backup. Up front, for the most part, is pretty good, except, like I said, that number 2 center spot does concern me. So I'm giving Cheveldayoff a grade of a C. I think that there's a few areas that weren't addressed, and the Perfetti situation is dragging on, but it's not giving him a lower grade just because of that, because there's several GMs that it's just hard to know where, without that contract being done, just where that sits with everything, right? So it's kind of a incomplete almost, but I'm going with a C because I would have liked to have seen them address the center depth a little bit more, and until we get clarity on the future of Ehlers, and then of course, like I said, that back end, I'm a little worried that it's not going to be as good as it was before. So let me know what you think on Winnipeg and their offseason moves, the work of Kevin Cheveldayoff. How would you grade his work? And we'll discuss that further in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and announcements of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.